Three Houses as a game is loaded with mysteries. The first half of the game introduces many questions to what's going on that only get answered on specific paths, like who is Byleth's mom? Who are those who slither in the dark? What's Edelgard's goal? Why does Dimitri want to kill Edelgard? Where did Claude go? Who are Rhea, Seteth, and Flayn really? Then there are other unknowns, the kind which pop up as you progress through the story that go unexplained, or that do get answered but not without raising even more questions. These mysteries are the main topic of this video, and today's video in this series focuses on, well of course, Dimitri, the Sealed Forest, and Byleth's weird fainting spell in white clouds. Theory number 1. And the one that's headlining this video. Does Dimitri die in Silver Snow? As a brief recap, in Silver Snow, the second battle at Grondor goes unseen in the story, and Byleth's inner circle just stumbles across the news of its death toll one day, in which Dimitri is included by witnesses.
Sir, the Kingdom army was also decimated, and His Highness Dimitri has been counted among the dead.
What?
Despite all odds, Byleth is later approached by Dimitri outside of Garreg Mach during the night, who laments how his actions led to the deaths of Gilbert, Rodrigue, and Dedue, and tries explaining himself to them. Before this happens though, the scene fades to black, Dimitri vanishes, and Seteth finds Byleth alone and asks them what they were doing outside.
It has been a lifetime, hasn't it, Professor? Yes, I thought so too. I wanted to slice her throat, but I did not get the chance. I let people die, and yet I still stand. Rodrigue, Gustav, Dedue. You sound just like Rodrigue. A way to absolve my sins. Everyone gives such complicated advice, and I can never quite grasp it all. That is why, Professor, I came here to explain my decision. I have no resources to take back the kingdom capital, much less to defeat the Empire, and that is why.
Professor, you will catch a cold sleeping in a place like this.
Initial watchers of the scene may be understandably confused at what just happened here. Here is Dimitri just in the monastery with a conscience and showing regret over what he's done. We never explicitly saw Dimitri die at Grondor, it was simply reported that he was among the casualties in the kingdom. Dimitri has a penchant for survival to begin with, and so speculation on whether this is actually Dimitri who made it back to the church and wanting to explain himself and what he plans to do next makes sense on the surface. And if you haven't played Silver Snow in a long time, maybe this is something that confused you as well. Other reasons to suspect he survived is that, unlike Verdant Wind, and as a side effect of the Grondor battle happening off-screen, there's no scene where Dedue reacts to Dimitri dying, and so when he shows up alive in Enbar to claim Edelgard's head in Silver Snow, he doesn't say much about what Dimitri's status actually is beyond he's there to enact revenge in his stead. This is a defense that people will use to say that he might have been alive in Silver Snow the whole time. What's more is that the dialogue just reads like Dimitri is actually literally right there. He doesn't deny that he's alive, and in fact, what he says doesn't contradict any perception of a spirit he could be. He says Rodrigue said the same thing. It's a little weird that the only dialogue difference between the choice of saying he survived or to atone for his sins is basically just a different follow-up line from him, but I guess they wanted to be as vague as humanly possible. I tried looking at the Japanese text, but it's effectively the same thing going on. But when you take a closer look at the second half of this moment, the one where Seteth appears, things start to arise that suggest Byleth fell asleep outside, dreamt of Dimitri, and that he is, in fact, dead. For one, the suggestion that Dimitri did die and later show up to Byleth as a ghost is backed up in how he appeared to be looking for guidance.
I can't say for certain that you were dreaming, but if someone did come here to see you, that person only wanted you to see their face. Perhaps they wanted you to guide them.
which in Three Houses' lore is kind of the job for the progenitor god slash Sothis, which Byleth is essentially a reincarnation of as far as lost souls are concerned. Seteth has a reliable perception and, as per the script, wakes Byleth up from what appears to be a nap outside in the dark. The scene itself is awkward because Byleth is standing this entire time, and while you could think Byleth was sleepwalking, I think it's easily understandable that Three Houses just has genuinely terrible idle animations in general and didn't have a model or animation for Byleth lying down to properly illustrate that she was in fact sleeping. As Seteth says, this would suggest that Dimitri's spirit appeared in Byleth's dreams. But is such a thing possible? Could Dimitri's soul be lost and wandering, seeking guidance, just as Seteth said? Sure, I suppose. Seems like a pretty feasible thing in this universe, especially when the one receiving such a vision is the progenitor god's reincarnation. If you ask me, I think Dimitri is super dead, and this is really his spirit roaming for guidance, and besides, whatever acknowledgement of what he needs to do next just clearly does not happen for the kingdom or anyone really, because he's, probably definitely dead. And Dimitri isn't exactly a reliable person to parse between the living and the dead to begin with. Going with the belief that this is his spirit and Dimitri really is dead, the implications of this are pretty sad when you think about it. He gets this revelation upon dying, but it's too late to do anything about it. He's just out here roaming. That's my take at the very least. What do you all think? All in all, it is a confusing scene, and I'm not even sure if this was necessary to even add to Silver Snow to begin with, but yeah, that's my take on it. What's the deal with the Sealed Forest? The area in question is home to Chapter 10's story mission as well for 2 paralogs, yet people have noticed the place seems to have a history of sorts that's never addressed. To start with, this is the only lore the game provides us for the forest.
The area with the old chapel was supposed to be off limits. It was at risk of collapse, so they didn't even post guards. It's not too strange. Does that surprise you? Meh. Garreg Mach has lots of places that are blocked off for one reason or another. That's true of the underground Holy Mausoleum as well as the Northern Woods. People call it the Sealed Forest, but as far as I can tell, it's nothing special. Just a forest.
Which in practice cannot be further from the truth. A closer examination of the zone reveals not only what the map labels as just rocks are in reality the bodies of destroyed church golems in the northern cliff, there's even a giant rock that's carved to resemble the Crest of Flames. The mystery goes on if we take the DLC into account. In Chapter 3 of Cindered Shadows, Byleth's group goes looking for the Chalice of Beginnings, which was once used by Seiros in a failed ritual to revive Sothis in the Imperial year 185. Their search leads them to an area eerily similar to the Sealed Forest, with the difference being the golems in it are fully functional, and its northern cliff has 4 crests lost to history carved into it, which also happens to contain the chalice in question. Given the similarities, one can't help but wonder if both areas are connected to one another somehow, and if so, would it mean there's something buried inside the cliff with the Crest of Flames as well? What is up with Bileth fainting during Chapter 8? Of all the important events that happen during the story in Chapter 8, there is one of them that simply goes on without getting answered openly. After Byleth and Geralt review Remire Village's early situation, Byleth just sort of faints out of nowhere for seemingly no reason. And while they're okay in the end and resume their lives as normal, Sothis mentions that she has felt what Byleth just went through in the past, and the sound effect used for the feeling in question was incidentally tweaked between updates as well. Take a listen to this. Sound effect 1.0.0 to 1.1.0. And this is sound effect from 1.2.0. So what happened here? The main story never revisits this plot point, so you're forgiven for believing this is something that could have easily just have been forgotten, and yet it's when one focuses on the context surrounding this event that a potential answer comes up. For example, let's start with the fact that everything happens at the start of the month called Red Wolf Moon. Then once the player has a chance to manage Byleth's activities during the month, it can be seen that Sothis' paralog just got unlocked, whose plotline revolves around Byleth, under Sothis' request, visiting Xanadu, where the tragedy of the Red Canyon took place, in an attempt to help her clear up and recover her memories, which works. What I'm trying to say is that whatever Sothis and Byleth felt in Chapter 8 to make them faint was most likely connected to Xanadu and Sothis herself remembering stuff. In simple terms, the scene is meant to hint that Sothis's paralog just got unlocked. As for what's up with the sound effect being used, it could simply be the devs remembered Byleth isn't supposed to have a heartbeat by that point in the story, so they changed the heartbeat to something less specific and more open to interpretation for the sake of consistency with what was established with her character already. Well folks, that will do it for the third video of the Fire Emblem Three Houses Theories series. If you haven't checked out the first two about Sothis and the ones surrounding Edelgard, take a look at those. Now I ask you, what do you think about these theories? Do you know of any theories that you think would be interesting to see scrutinized in a future video? And while you're at it, please leave a like, as it greatly helps boost this video's search ratings. And finally, a big thank you to everyone who has recently subscribed to the channel. The channel just hit 94,000 subscribers, and that is super exciting. And if you like the channel's content and you want to help it get beyond this, like 95,000 subscribers, with the ultimate goal of hitting 100,000, please consider subscribing. It's actually unbelievable that this channel started like 7 years ago, and now we're here, so yeah, it's just pretty crazy. So if you do want to support the channel that way, please do so. And with that all being said, I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you next time. Deuces.
you